Hello, and welcome back to Halethorn Zoo, episode 3 already. Wow. Today it's time for polar bears and Arctic foxes to make their debut in our zoo. However, as you're gonna see, it's not gonna go without a fight. Well, I started just by planning out the areas, and my first idea was to have the polar bears on this side of the park, have a path in the middle, and then the Arctic foxes on the outside of the park. However, I am going to change those plans and come back on those ideas for a bit. I think I even make this habitat, which I'm designing now, quite a bit closer, quite a bit smaller. Eventually you're gonna see that the Arctic foxes are gonna be in this area, but in a way smaller area than I have designed up until now. Just stay tuned and you'll see the development. Here I'm still in doubt if to use the Arctic wolves or the polar bears in the area I'm working on now. I eventually decided on the polar bears and used pictures of the Paradijsa Zoo in Belgium as a blueprint inspiration for the area where the polar bears are gonna be. I eventually ended up with making actually a quite small habitat. I could have made this bigger. I don't know. I wasn't ready to kill my darlings at that point, so I forced myself to keep building this habitat. So it's gonna be a long habitat, a bit small, and hopefully it's gonna work. I ended up placing the polar bears, and we'll see how they react to the area. And I could see there was going to be a lot of fixing with this area to get it going, and the way it's looking now, it's not the way it's ending up to look at the end of the video. But yeah, sometimes you just have to try things and figure them out as you go along. So yeah, just keep watching. After I gave the polar bears a fairly big cave to sleep in, I decided to get rid of all the terraforming I did to make their habitat. And I did this because I've been using the gray faux rocks all the time, and it was weird that I didn't use them now. It felt like I was changing the area, even though I want this habitat be part of our starting area. So I removed all the terrain and decided to build it up with the rocks again. Here's the start of me messing about with the habitat for quite a while. It started with the entrance way of the cave, where I finally found out that the polar bears wouldn't pass through that arch, even though I think it's big enough. So don't know why, but the way I made the habitat really small and the lands really small really messed with the traversable terrain. And I had to do a lot of changing around in this habitat to actually give the polar bears the room for traversable terrain. So yeah, this habitat was a challenge. I didn't expect it, but it challenged me more than I expected. It also happened on stream, which is nice. So if you want to see me build live, I regularly stream on Tuesday and on Friday, and you can see me build zoos and also parks. But enough about about Twitch. Let's just keep going with the video. Talking about traversable terrain, I wanted to emulate the ground of Paradisa, where they have like gravel on the floor, and I wanted to make this snow-colored rock, which they have there too. They just painted the rock white to have that snow area. And here you can see that those rocks actually blocked the traversable terrain. Now again, I think it's because I made the land area so small that I really needed to take into account where and how they can walk, because the moment I placed something, something went wrong. And then again, I saw that a polar bear was keeping resetted to the gate, and again and again and again. I couldn't figure out why. It was new for me and I didn't know why. Eventually, I figured out that I accidentally deleted one of the habitat barriers buried in the rock. And when I figured that out, and that's here, the AI and the traversable terrain started behaving way better. So yeah, lesson learned. I eventually added also snow to emulate the white painted rock as they do in Paradisa. With some coolers and stuff. It's not reasonable for a zoo to have coolers that they can actually have continuous snow, not without having a whole building around it. But I wanted to get that painted white rock view, and yeah, that's the easiest way to get that done. So we have to imagine that this snow is painted on and not real. And over to all the plants. To give them a bit more traversable terrain and more land to walk on and make it more interesting, I also added these rocks like a bridge towards the glass. They make quite a lot of use of it. Oh, you could see one of the polar bears lying down there, and they actually really enjoyed that area. So slowly but surely this habitat is finally coming together, but it took me quite a few hours to get it working. But let that be a lesson. If you work on it and you find a mistake, try to work on it and work on it a bit more. The biggest mistake I made with this one, and I'm leaving it in, but the biggest mistake I made on is making the land so small that it was a bit annoying. I try again to put in the cave, but again it just completely blocked the traversable terrain, so I left that entrance out. I do like that arch and I wish I could put it in, but it just didn't let me, so yeah. Kept it like this, and now it's tidying up the whole habitat. And then we can go over to the Arctic foxes. And here's a nice overview of our newly established habitat. The inside of the habitat is finished. I still need to do a bit on the outside, then we can get to the Arctic foxes. After getting the last info in for the polar bears and get it all nice and neat on the path side of the habitat, I went over to the habitat of the Arctic foxes and decided that it was way too big for those little creatures. I needed to have a nice border, so to say, between this area and the next area, which we're going to start to build in the next episode. So I fiddled around a bit more with the barrier to make it more acceptable. I also put the barrier quite a bit away from the pathing, so I could create some air, so to say, between the path and the barrier, and maybe put some greens as a barrier in there, so it feels more open. If I had two habitats that had big glass walls on either side, I was scared that this area would feel very claustrophobic, and that was not my intention. So here I start building the habitat. I released the Arctic foxes in there. I kind of like to put in the animals before I shape up the whole habitat, because it gives me instant feedback about how the animals are going to react to the habitat and if it's working or is it not working. Yeah, that's for me. Great idea. Again, the grey rocks. This is the last habitat with the grey rocks. I'm very happy that it's the last habitat with the grey rocks. I'm a bit done with the grey rocks by this time, but it really finishes off the area, as you can see at the end probably. And then, yeah, we started building for the Arctic foxes. Again, with the snow. Again, imagining that it's painted white. They can't really have snow, though I could see a zoo putting in a snow machine. I think I've seen that in Blighter, but not all the time. So yeah, let's see what more stuff I've come up with. This habitat felt way more straightforward than the polar bear habitat, but I did try to make some nice little elements in there, like the snow-covered rock and getting some rocks on the edge of the pond so it doesn't feel like a big hole that's been cut out. I added some more pines. I think I even checked if the pines are visible from the seal habitat, create a more better skyline from there. But yeah, I'm just slowly adding all these plants to make it look way nicer and giving them that foresty idea, that taiga forest idea. Yeah, just little things. And here I'm also placing the plants in front of the habitat to get a bit of a separation between the fence and the glass for the people. I think that really worked really well. Putting in a log, putting some branches on the floor just to get a little bit more detail into the habitat. And I think this turned out to be one of my more favorite habitats in terms of little details and stuff. And then eventually I start working on the outside glass panels and make sure they look nice as well for our visitors to enjoy. And here I'm just fluffing about with a lot of the stonework and getting it ready. And I did, even though I made it a bit wider, the path, I did wanted to add a form of intimacy when you were there, like there's something happening. So I decided to put some fallen logs over the path. Like it felt more an adventure, that Alaskan maybe vibe, that gives you, you the idea that you're on an adventure. And I needed to raise up the rocks a bit more because people stopped looking inside the habitat. It took a while, but eventually that solved itself. And there we are. Our whole area is done. This is the first area of the zoo completed, except for a few bits of backstaging, but like I said, I'm gonna go back to that in a later stage. But I am very happy with how this turned out. The polar bears gave me gray hairs to make it work, but I think it works. And the way the Arctic fox habitat turned out is, I'm really happy with that. It feels natural, it feels fun, and I'm very glad with the look of it. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and if you did, please like the video and maybe subscribe. Like I said, I always stream on Twitch as well on Tuesday and Friday. So if you want to see me build live, you can do that there. But for now, I'm saying bye bye!